of the Indian national movement. The main topic of our discussion today will be the rise of the militant nationalists, their main principles, and their method of struggle for attaining Swaraj. Now, a brief outline about what were these assertive nationalists, or we call it extremist or militant nationalist. We have seen that in the early years of the 20th century, a new and young group emerged in the Indian National Congress, which was very critical of the ideologies and methods of the older leaders known as moderates, because this group advocated Swaraj as the goal of the Congress and propagated the use of self-reliant and independent methods to attain the goal. Therefore, the members of these groups were known as militants or extremist or assertive nationalist. Clear? So now today's topic would be, what are the principles of the extremist? We had seen that the moderates, they believed in liberal politics or liberalism, but let us see what the extremist beliefs are there. The extremist, first point we have, favored complete independence. That means they did not want the freedom within the British government, but they favored complete independence from the clutches of the British rule. Secondly, they were against the policy of political mendicancy. Now, what do you mean by political mendicancy? The meaning of political mendicancy is like a state of being a beggar, because the moderates, they believed in asking their favors from the British through prayers, petition, or through memorandum of association. But the extremists, they believed that the freedom cannot be like a begging bowl. You have to achieve with self-reliant method. So therefore, they were against the policy of political mendicancy. That means they believed in the violent methods to achieve their aim. Clear? Not by mere petitions, prayer, or other sort of methods to convey the British. Thirdly, the militants took pride in ancient Indian culture and faith in the Vedic language and literature. They took pride in the ancient Vedic culture. They had faith in the Vedic literature and Vedic language because they derived the main source of inspiration from the Vedic text or the ancient Indian culture, and they preached high of the Indian society in the ancient Vedic culture. Clear? Next is, they frankly criticized the policies of the British government. They were not hesitant, but they frankly criticized, they openly criticized and challenged the faulty policies of the government and their disastrous effect in the Indian economy. Fifthly, they preached passive resistance, Swadeshi and boycott. They said that the freedom should be by passiveness, was ready to sacrifice, and in that they followed the process of Swadeshi and boycott. That means following the goods made in one's own country, Swadeshi, or boycotting the foreign goods made by the British, so that the British would be crippled. Their main aim was to cripple the administration by following the policy of Swadeshi and boycott. Finally, they also believed in, the last point they believed in was mobilizing of the masses. So the extremists believed that no political agitation would be complete without the involvement of the masses. So therefore, they said that the masses should be mobilized, the public should be informed about the British faulty laws and policies, and as a whole, all should be ready to fight for the ugly regime of the British rule in India. So in fact, we see that these were the principles that were advocated by the extremists. Clear? Now our next point of discussion would be, what were the causes of the rise of these extremism? So first is failure of the moderates. The moderates did not achieve anything because they just approached the British through constitutional norms, through liberalism, through prayers and petition. But the British did not fulfill their grievances or their demands. So therefore, the moderates don't arouse the people, but they really failed to achieve their immediate aim, that is Swaraj or the self-government. Clear? Secondly is recognition of the true nature of the British rule in India. So therefore, the extremists, they recognize the true nature of the British rule in India and their faulty laws and faulty policies, and they held the British responsible for the economic backwardness of Indian agriculture and industry because of their faulty laws and their faulty policies against the Indians. Therefore, they openly came out and exposed the true nature of the British sense of justice and fair play. Clear? Next is the partition of Bengal. The partition of Bengal was also another factor for the rise of extremism, because the Bengal was partitioned not because of the administration background, but they wanted to curb, the British want to curb the growing nationalism in Bengal. And therefore people came to know about the ugly nature of the British rule, and this extremist, they exposed that the partition of Bengal was not an administrative line, but it was to curb the growing nationalism in Bengal. Therefore, they openly challenged the British. Clear? Then social and religious awakening. Many social and religious leaders and social societies, they came up, they preached the oneness, they tried to purify the Indian religion and the evils that pertain in the society. At the same time, they tried to build the universal brotherhood, and this also fostered the feeling of nationalism, and the people began to think now what were the basic rights and duties. So therefore, the social religious reform movements also awakened the masses from the deep political slumber and forced them to rise against the British. Clear? The next point we have impact of the revolutions. Now, we have seen the beginning of the 19th century, Japan made a tremendous progress after 1868 and conveyed the message that an ascetic country could progress without the Western help. The ascetic countries could progress without the Western help. The Ethiopians defeated, the Ethiopian army defeated in 1986, and the Japan defeated Russia in 1905. Revolution movement in Ireland, Russia, Egypt, Turkey, China, and the Boer War convinced the Indians that they can also do the same, and therefore they openly challenged the British government in India. Clear? So next point we have the growth of education and unemployment. Now many of the Indians, they were educated on Western lines, they went to England and received higher education, and they came to India but they were denied job because high posts were reserved for the English. And so as a result, what happened? Many educated Indians were unemployed, though they being equally qualified with the Europeans. So this felt a strong agitation against the British, that they were exploiting the Indians and not giving them chance in the administrative or the employment setup of the country. So therefore, the growth of education and unemployment also created another factor for the rise of extremism in India. Next we have the depression of the Indian economy. So the depression of the Indian economy was another factor because the British drained the Indians' wealth to the maximum for their own benefit. They did not care for the agricultural output or providing relief measures during the crop failure, but they were mostly concerned with extracting the raw materials from India and taking to England and making the finished good in England and selling them at the Indian market at a high price. So this shattered the Indian economy. The cotton industries practically were shattered, the native industries were almost closed, and so the people held the British responsible for the economic backwardness, and therefore they said that unless and until we drive away the British away from India, their economic problem will not be solved. That was one of the reasons for the rise of extremism. Then plague and famine. So it was believed that from 1886 to 87, a terrible plague and famine hit India, and around 20 million people were affected by these calamities. The government was helpless. No relief work was undertaken by the government while the people were dying of starvation, but the government was busy in making preparation of the Silver Jubilee celebration of Queen Victoria. They never came up with the relief measures, and as a result people were against the British. Then also it was believed that in 1897 a similar plague hit in Pune, and no relief work, no measures were taken. Mr. Rand was the commissioner over there, but he mishandled the situation. He was not able to control the situation, and instead of providing relief work to the people, he mishandled the situation, and people rose against him. And it was believed that Mr. Rand was shot dead by Damodar Chepakar for his work, and later on Damodar Chepakar was hanged, and also Bal Gangadhar Tilak was put for rigorous imprisonment for 18 months for his writings in the magazine Maratha, where he highlighted the British exploitation of the India's wealth to the maximum. So he was put to rigorous imprisonment for 18 months and for his writings in the famous magazine Maratha. Then next we have the anti-Indian attitude of Lord Curzon. So I told you Lord Curzon was a very man of, may call it, unpopular because of his unpopular attitudes and policies that he framed for the Indians. So therefore, with his one of the was the partition of Bengal, then also anti-partition he put up, and then also certain policies like the Calcutta Corporation Act, the Official Secret Acts, the University Acts, all these curtailed the people's freedom, and so therefore people were annoyed with Curzon's repressive policies, and they thought that nothing but the only freedom to drive away from the British would redeem them of their grievances or their such sad plight. Clear? Then we have the ill treatment of the Indians abroad. Many Indians, like in South Africa and other colonies, they were ill treated badly by the Europeans. They were, as I said, not allowed to enter the restaurants or hotels meant for the Europeans. They had to carry a placard, and they were very much exploited by these Europeans. And therefore, the Indians felt that this should be stopped, and therefore the militant nationalists, they rose against the ill treatment of the Indians in abroad. Finally, we have the much awakening of the extremist trio like Lal, Bal and Pal. So they were of the opinion that Lal, Bal and Pal, they were forming the extremist trio like Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bipin Chandra Pal. They were of the opinion that the British rule in India was not a blessing, it was a curse, and therefore they violently tried to uproot the British rule through their writing, through educating people and through their violent means, so that the British would be driven away from India. Clear? Coming about the methods of the extremists. The extremists, they followed different methods to achieve their aim. One was Swadesi. Swadesi means to use the goods made in one's own country and refuse the foreign goods. So they did it in such a way so that to cripple the British industries and factories that they have set up. And therefore they followed the path of Swadesi. Then boycott was the next move. Boycott the foreign goods or boycott the goods made in the foreign countries. By boycotting the foreign goods, foreign services, British opened institutions and colleges. They wanted to make the British administration cripple. That's why they asked the people to follow the path of Swadesi and boycott movement. Clear? Next is the national education. So many leaders felt that by educating the people on the ugly face of the British regime in India, or by exposing the true nature of the British rule in India, many people would rise against the British. And therefore, they tried to give the national education on their own by the Vedic text or by the ancient Vedic literature, and to pride in reciting the Vedic text and Vedic literature, so that the people would be ready to face the challenges that came in front to throw the British away from India. Finally, the contact with the masses. So the militants, they believed that no political agitation would be complete without the involvement of the masses. And so they felt that the masses should be contacted and they should be given political education so that they may be ready to fight for their rights. So in short, we have these were the methods that were advocated by the extremists. And with this, we come to the end of the topic. Hope you have understood. If you have any problem, you can contact or go through the topic that I have tried to explain, or we'll be trying to explain in the online classes when we meet the next time. Till then, take care of yourself. God bless you.